Camera sliders are a really simple, inexpensive way to get beautiful cinematic shots with your camera. Today we're going to be looking at the basic operations of this camera slider from Neewer. We're going to be doing a dolly in and out. We're going to do a dolly left to right, and just kind of get familiar with the functions of it, how it works and everything. So we're glad you're here. I'm really excited to show this to you. You can get some really cool stuff with this. So let's get started. This is the Neewer Academy. All right, so here we are. We're in the studio today, and it is gross gray winter outside. So we're doing a little cheerful spring product shoot. I love using camera sliders for product videos, so that's kind of the thing we're mimicking today with it. So let's talk about our setup really quick. We've got our flowers. We've got a RGB 1200 panel light over here off camera. That's our key light. You can see kind of interrupting that, I've just put some fabric up. I'm suspending it here from a Neewer C-stand. This is just giving us a little texture to the light. Sometimes, especially with something kind of soft and pastel, I like having that kind of softer, dappled look to the light. I have another RGB 1200 over here. That's just my fill. And I've got a 660 Pro right here for a little bit more fill in the room. So today we're using the ER180 slider from Neewer. This is an 80 centimeter version of the slider. There's also a 100 centimeter and 120. This one's the 80. We've got it mounted to our Neewer tripod. And you can see on the left and the right here, down below, I have the support arms that are bracing it to the tripod. Those are really handy if you plan on putting this on a tripod. One thing to note about this is that it does have these legs on the side, these little feet, and this is all micro adjustable. So you don't need a tripod for this. You can put it right on the table. I like a tripod because it gives us a lot more flexibility. It allows us to make some different movements, but it's very versatile. You can put it right on the table. And the last thing I think I'll talk about before we get into our first shot is that it's battery powered. This is the same mount as the larger batteries that we're using in our RGB 1200 panel lights. You can buy those from Neewer, and you could slap one of those on here and give it a lot of power if you wanted to do like a time lapse or something. Additionally, if you're going to do a really long time lapse, it has a little USB mount, so you could put external power on here, and then that can stay and power this for, long time. Okay, so the first shot that we're going to do is going to be a left to right dolly movement. We're all set up for it, so let's get started. The first shot we're going to do is going to be the dolly left right, or the dolly right left. So when I say dolly, that's like a big piece of equipment they use on feature films where there's a crew of guys pushing, the big camera along set tracks. That's basically what we've got right here, just in a very sort of small package. So the first thing we're going to do is turn on the camera slider. So I'm just going to hold down the power button. And the first thing it'll do is orient itself, and it'll go all the way to the left of the track. So the way we're going to operate the camera slider today is using the Neewer app. So I can sync this device up to my Neewer app in the same way that I can sync up all of my lights. So if you don't know you can do that, you can, and it's really cool. You can just program this and you can control all your lights from your phone. So we can use the same app and the same controls to control our camera slider. So I'm just going to select that in my app. And we've got three settings. We've got a manual setting, a live video setting, and a time lapse. Right now, let's look at the manual, and then we can talk about the live video settings. Time lapse is super cool. That's going to be another video where we do a time lapse shoot with one of these. So the first thing we'll do is just take a look at our options. We've got a sliding speed. So I'm going to leave this at, let's just do 90% speed. Now you've got a movement selection where it says slow or constant. Slow is the way to go, in my opinion. This is going to feather your start and stop. So instead of just stopping, which can sometimes jar the camera, this will kind of slowly ease into a stop and slowly begin to start. So I like that. But hey, you can mess with this stuff however you want. So really that's it for the manual options. It's very simple. I'm gonna press the right arrow and we can just watch and see what happens. So you can see 90% speed is a really nice, slow, controlled, fluid movement with the camera. So now that we get to the end, I'm going to push the right button again, and you can see it kind of feathers that transition off. So hey, that's it for the dolly shot. It couldn't be any simpler, and the results you get are really cool. I will show you really quickly the live video option that you have on this. This gives you the option of telling it exactly how long you want to take the pass. So if you say, I want it to go for 1 minute from left to right on the slider or right to left, you can program that in here. The really cool thing you can do with this is tell it where to start and stop. So I'll show you that really quickly. Automatic sets A and B points just to the far left and right. Customize is going to allow us to set those points manually. So right now it says check the position of A. So what I'm going to do with the camera is I'm going to watch it till it gets right to the edge of my bokeh, and I'll stop it. I'm going to say OK. And then I'm going to move to position B, and right there I'll stop it. So that's just panning left and right on my flowers. I'll say OK. And then I'll say save. And then it's going to ask me how long do I want that trip to take. Let's do faster. Let's do 100% speed. 8 seconds. 8 seconds is pretty quick, but let's see what happens. So I'm just going to hit start. It's going to go manually to my A point. It's going to find A right there. And then it's going to go from A to B in 8 seconds exact. Now the really cool thing about that is you can replicate that over and over and over for different takes. You could even use that for compositing. So there we go, really, really simple. That's our first shot. That's our dolly left to right, dolly right to left. The next shot we're going to do is going to be a dolly in and a dolly out. All right, so here we are with our second setup for our basic setups. The one before, we were running the track kind of parallel with the subject. Now we're moving towards and away from the subject. So the big thing that's going to change here is your focal distance. So when we're all the way forward on our track, we're at, whatever that is, 18 inches, all the way back here is significantly different. So you're not going to find depth of field wide enough, I think, to cover this much ground. So this is where the autofocus of the camera is really going to kind of shine. So we didn't always used to have autofocus while we were shooting video. This is relatively new, and it's become so sophisticated and so reliable that it makes shots like this possible with this little piece of equipment. So I'm just going to use on my camera a lock-on autofocus, and I've just chosen one of my flowers as my point of autofocus. And I'm just going to stick in manual mode for this one. And I'm just going to keep it at 100% just so we can see. And let's just go forward. Let's take a look at how our shot looks. And I really love that. Such a smooth movement. And our autofocus is keeping it nice and sharp right there with our flower. Great. Looks really good. We can zoom out exactly the same. And staying nice and sharp, that's great. And I just love that we can do this with such a small, simple piece of equipment. So there you go. That is the camera slider basic functions. We're going to do another video with some of the more advanced stuff where the camera is actually going to be moving on the head of this as it's traveling up and down the track. We're also going to change the track, so we're going to go vertical with it to get kind of like a climbing crane motion. So be sure to watch that one. Thanks so much for watching this one, and we'll see you in the next video.